Okay, we are in live now. Welcome to everyone, whoever watching this live now or watch this later. In this live, we will discuss, not really discuss, we will try to respond some criticism on the Kalam with Dr. Alvaro. Uh, would you like to please give a brief introduction of you, Carlo?
Yeah, sure. My name is Dr. Alvaro, and I teach philosophy at the City University of New York. I also lecture at St. John's University in Queens, New York. I specialize in philosophy of religion, theology, especially the Kalam cosmological argument, ethics, and also animal ethics. And I'm the author of 4 books, one of which is a book on deism, and I dedicate a full chapter on the Kalam argument.
Yeah, on this live, after the total discussion, I would like to uh, pin the link of your books if you
Sure.
agree on it. Yeah. So after ending the discussion, we will do that. Okay. Let's start our responding. As you have not that much time, we will cover this as time. Okay.
Sure, let's jump into it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Here is the video, uh, which is our topic today. Okay.
Creation stories of Pacific Islanders
Is it perfectly okay? The audio.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's
Oh,
fine.
okay.
tell us the
No,
world
I'm no,
was
I'm
made from
laughing
a volcano.
because I'm laughing. I'm giggling because I know the video, and
Yeah.
the
I
video is
see.
really it's kind of silly. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay. We have to complete this, whatever it is.
Other origin myths say the world came from water. But contemporary science tells us that the world evolved from a Big Bang. And the outdated view that this marks an absolute beginning has been used by religious philosophers, most notably William Lane Craig, to revive an old argument for God known as the Kalam cosmological argument. In this film, we'll hear why this argument fails from the very cosmologists quoted by Kalam's supporters. And we'll also hear from leading philosophers of mathematics who will show why the concept of an infinite universe, now being proposed by many physicists, is perfectly coherent. And lastly, we'll see that if the universe did begin, it may not need a cause.
Really?
The argument is often expressed like this. Whatever begins to exist has a cause.
Okay. From this, we know that what is the purpose of this video, of that video, which we are watching right now. So we will see if they are successful on this or not.
The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause, and that cause is taken to be God. Let's start at the beginning. Philosophers like Craig have argued that the past must be finite.
If the universe never began to exist, that means that the number of past events in the history of the universe is infinite. But mathematicians recognize that the existence of an actually infinite number of things leads to self-contradictions.
As we shall see, contemporary mathematicians do not think infinity is contradictory, although it's true that philosophers of the past were troubled by it. But even
that's
they
already
did
a
not banish the
mistake.
concept. For example, Aristotle distinguished between different types of infinity.
The distinction that he was drawing was between an infinity that's present all at once, all at some particular point in time, which is what he meant by an actual infinity, contrasted with an infinity that is spread out over time, which is what he called a potential infinity. So, for example, if space were infinitely big, that would be an example of an actual infinity because the whole of space is there at any given point in time. On the other hand, if you imagine a clock endlessly ticking, the ticks might go on forever, but if they did, that would be an example of a potential infinity.
But in the 19th century, Georg Cantor revolutionized the mathematics of the infinite.
What Cantor achieved was to treat infinity as a subject of mathematics itself.
It was a whole new branch of mathematics.
Okay.
Okay. First
know-
of all, I wanted to say the host or the presenter, whatever you want to call her, was not accurate. She made a mistake because she implied that according to Craig, an actual infinity is not possible. And that's not what William Lane Craig argues. William Lane Craig does not argue, does not say that actual infinity is impossible. Rather, he says that actual infinity is not possible in the physical world. So all this introduction with philosophers and mathematicians and scientists praising the fact that we today, starting with Cantor, we completely understand the concept of an actual infinity. All that is totally irrelevant, because we know that. We know that in mathematics, mathematicians talk about actual infinity all the time. But the actual infinity in mathematics has no bearing on the actual infinity that would be required for the universe to be past eternal.
Eternal. Yeah, that's the whole point, that they are equivocating with the mathematical infinity, with the metaphysical infinity.
Yeah. What mathematics says has no bearing on the physical world. I mean, it's like, just to give you a quick example of this. In mathematics, we understand that 2 minus 3 is -1.
1.
Right?
Yep.
Now, go around the world and find me -1.
Yeah,
So,
-1.
So according to their argument, if mathematics is a map, a precise map to the physical world, then you should be able to find the square root of -25. But you're not going to find it. You're not going to find or x. What is x? There's no x, right? So whatever you can do in mathematics does not tell you anything about the physical world.
Okay, let's move on. As we know, okay, the infinite property Hilbert. Okay, let's start on the Hilbert Hotel. It will be better to discuss on that. What actually here, not mathematician, as he is a philosopher. We can think that, hope so, he will say something relevant.
Over time. One classic example that Craig has given to show infinity cannot exist is that of Hilbert's infinite hotel.
Mathematician David Hilbert illustrates the problem by imagining a hotel with an infinite number of rooms, all of which are occupied. There's not a single vacancy. Every room in the infinite hotel is full. Now suppose a new guest shows up and asks for a room. The manager says, sure, no problem. Then moves the guest who was in room number 1 to room number 2, and the guest who was in room number 2 to room number 3, and so on to infinity. As a result of this shuffling, room number 1 becomes vacant, and the new guest happily checks in, even though all the rooms were already full, and nobody has checked out.
It seems Craig is claiming infinity is problematic because the Hilbert Hotel is both full and able to admit new guests. But the problem may simply be the way full is being defined.
If what we mean by full is every room is occupied, then that's true, but it doesn't prohibit us being able to accommodate new guests, because we can shuffle them all up right in an infinite hotel. If what we mean by full is can't accommodate new guests, then it's just false that it's full.
In Craig's video, a contradiction is supposedly found by considering what happens when the guests leave the infinite hotel.
Suppose all the guests in the odd-numbered rooms check out. In that case, an infinite number of people have left the hotel, and yet there are no fewer people in the hotel. But suppose instead all the guests in rooms numbered 4 and above check out. In that case, only 3 people are left, and yet exactly the same number of people left the hotel this time as when all the odd-numbered guests checked out. Thus, we have a contradiction. We subtract identical quantities from identical quantities and get different answers.
The trouble, that video is so below threshold. The complaint in that clip, in particular, the one that says that if there are only 3 people left, then there's still the same number of people have checked out as were there originally. That is a feature of infinity that has to be taken on board very importantly, which is that any finite initial segment of an infinite set, if it's linearly ordered, is such that what's left is infinite. So no matter how far you go, in fact, you're still leaving infinitely many elements ahead of you.
There's a formal theory of arithmetic, which is characterized by the Peano axioms. And that's a language where you can express any sentence of arithmetic, like 7 plus 3 equals 10 or something. But when it comes to this Cantorian transfinite arithmetic, there's just no notion of subtraction. It's not well defined to say infinity minus 3.
Well,
yeah, exactly. That's the problem. That in mathematics, you're not even allowed to use subtractions and division when you deal with infinites. Now, in real life, if there were a hotel or a collection that has an infinity of items, obviously you are no one would prevent you from subtracting or dividing.
yeah, in reality, we should be able to subtract the quantity if it were real, the hotel actually. Then basically they are telling the same things as we are appealing on whether the infinity can't be real or not in the physical world.
But you see, this is one of the reasons why in my recent defense of the Kalam, I don't even use the Hilbert's hotel paradox.
Yeah,
because I think that the hotel paradox has generated so much, and all the responses to the hotel paradox are obfuscating and are taking the attention away from something that is very simple, and that is that an infinity of items does not and cannot exist. Well, cannot exist, I don't know. Maybe if there is a God, God could create, I suppose, an infinity of things. I don't know. But the point is that it does not exist. It does not exist because it's not even a number. And when you think about it, to think about simply that if you have a collection that has an infinity of items, take all the even numbered items, okay? That's
Yep.
the same number of items that you have if you combine the even numbered items and the odd numbered items. Now, if this doesn't strike you as an absurdity, maybe not a strict logical contradiction, but if this doesn't strike you as just absurd, I don't know what will. Now, if you can just say, and in fact, when you when you resume the video, Alex Malpass is going to say, well, it's not logical contradictory. So for all we know, it's possible. Well, but then if you put it that way, anything could be possible. It could be possible that it is not logically contradictory that I can run faster than light, but it's clearly, it seems to be metaphysically impossible that I could do that, even if logically you can't find a strict logical contradiction. So
Yeah, but still there are some maybe planting distinguish these two as one is strictly logical possibility or the metaphysical possibility or impossibility.
yeah,
What we are saying on whether there
yeah,
can be an
I
infinity or
think
not.
I think he's correct. I mean, there are lots of things. The idea of a logical contradiction is something like A and not A, right? That's obvious logical contradiction. The contradiction is that it is not possible because it follows a law, like the law of non-contradiction, the excluded middle. So you know that it must be the case that it is not possible to have something that exists and it doesn't exist at the same time. I cannot be taller than you and shorter than you at the same time, right? So that's a clear logical contradiction. But then there are things there are concepts that are not strictly logically contradictory in that sense, but nevertheless, they're clearly impossible, metaphysically impossible. Take, for example, out of nothing, nothing comes. Well, it's not strictly logically contradictory. Someone might say that something could pop into existence from nothing. It's not logically contradictory. But then when you think about it philosophically, metaphysically, how could it be the case that something, anything, even a particle, could come into existence out of nothing? I mean, there's nothing there. There's no material. There's no efficient cause. It seems just impossible. Now, you could say, but how do you know? Maybe it's just because we're human beings and we are limited. Our minds are limited. That's fine. But the burden of proof is on you. You have to come up with some arguments to show that it might be possible. Here are some examples of things that come into existence out of nothing.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. As we know, contradiction and not contradiction, the same thing. Okay, physicist on infinity. Let's start.
Having done infinitely many.
Infinity is accepted by mathematicians. So what about
So
physicists?
what?
So in regard
So
Okay, yeah.
what? We know that, but it doesn't mean anything.
Even we accept the infinity.
I accept it too. Although I don't know what that means. I simply, it's not a number. We don't know what it means. You cannot even picture it in your head.
There are differences between the definition.
regards to infinities in physics, the only obstruction that we have is an observer cannot measure an infinite number because infinity is not a number. I think that
Okay, there may be some noises.
There is some
Okay,
screeching
let me-
noises here.
yeah,
There
yeah.
you go.
Okay, it was from him. Okay.
are observable cannot be infinite, but things like the entire volume of a space or the entire duration of time can be infinite as long as an observer
Okay,
cannot
stop it
measure
right
them.
there. Stop it right there. Who is this guy? This guy is a mathematician at MIT or wherever he is from.
Yeah.
I am sorry, I apologize, but I have to say he's ignorant. To say that, to give space as an example of infinity, or the what did he say? The future time,
Yeah.
to give it as
can
an
be-
example of infinity, that's simply he just misunderstand the point. First of all, how do you know that space is infinite, actually infinite? All you can say is that space, which is growing, we know that space is growing, but that's an example of potential infinity, not actual
Yeah.
infinity. Unless, and if you say that it is actual infinity, you're begging the question, what about time? Well, if you suppose that time began 15 billion years ago, then all it's happening is that the number of events is growing bigger and bigger toward the future. And again, you have a finite collection, right? It's not an actual infinity, it's a potential infinity. Otherwise, he's begging the question, because that's the very thing that we're trying to establish. So you cannot give those as examples of actual infinities. We don't know that they're actual infinities. It's like saying, oh, look, the number of stars in the universe is an actual infinity. How do you know?
Basically, they are asserting, and if anyone have to say that an infinity is maybe possible, or it might be real in any ontological sense, then they have to respond the issues we are raising against the infinity, because we have some independent reason then why an infinity cannot be actual in the real world. We are not.
I mean, this video so far, this video is being misleading, incorrect. No wonder why the host of the video thinks that the Kalam has been refuted. You can refute it, yeah, sure, by fallacious logic. You can refute anything you want. You know, if you straw man an argument, you can refute it. Obviously, that's the straw man fallacy.
Yeah, and anyone can also refute the classical law of logic too, if he wants to. Okay, the infinite. Okay.
So why don't you start with the absurdity of a Hilbert hotel? That you can't.
It's not an absurdity. It's just what happens if you have infinity. I mean, that was the major thing that Cantor had showed. You can talk about infinity in a serious way, and you deduce very powerful results from talking about infinity in the right way. You have to be careful when you talk about infinity, but yes, if you're careful, talking about infinity is perfectly reasonable. So I can't see a general statement about infinity is not physics.
I think what Roger's probably thinking is what I would think is that there's certainly a well-defined mathematical description that one can imagine where there's some function that's defined for all time that describes what's happening at all time, maybe a wave function that evolves with time and is defined for all time. How did we get to now question really just doesn't arise. At the time T naught that we call now, the wave function says that certain things are happening. And if that's an accurate description, that's what's happening. One doesn't have to start at the beginning at minus infinity and go through all the times to get to now. One is just here now.
Craig claims that the infinite past is impossible because one can't reach infinity by successive addition, which is true if you only have a finite amount of time. But what if you have an infinite amount of time?
Please.
Well,
how does it make a difference if you have an infinite amount of time? This is just silly. How you can have all the time in the world, but if you have to, I mean, it's the word. Listen, it's the word itself, the term itself that is telling you an infinity. Right? So if you have an enormous amount of time, an infinite amount of time, and you have to count, you have to enumerate an infinite number of, let's say, grains of sand. Does it make a difference that you have an infinite amount of time? No, it doesn't make any difference, because guess what? After one, there's another, and then another, and then another. And it's very simple. Just, if you don't believe me, start counting all the numbers. See if you will ever get to the end, right? And even if you become immortal and you live forever, you will be counting forever. You will never get to the end. So how can you cross an infinity?
Even nobody knows then that how she can, because if we think about, as you mentioned, the immortal, Trisam Sandy have maybe this kind of paradox. Trisam Sandy's biography, reported by Bertrand Russell, maybe it is similar to that he has an immortal life and he is writing his biography. Okay, yeah, I remember. I do not want to elaborate this as we have some limited time.
Could you count all the numbers then?
Yes, if you're counting forever, if you're never finishing, there is a sense in which you can count them all. And it's the following sense. Given any individual counting number, however big, 1 million, 1 billion, 1 trillion, you'll eventually get there. it doesn't mean that you ever will reach the point that you can stop and say, done it, I've now finished, I've counted all the infinite numbers.
Okay, he's saying our point that you cannot say that it's done or it's
But then
finished.
if it cannot
Then
be done, it cannot be done.
Actual, yeah, it cannot be actual infinite then. If
He's contradicting himself.
Wait.
He says, "Oh no, you can do it eventually,
Yeah.
but you cannot do it." Well, we know that you cannot do it.
maybe
That's the point. That's the point. If you count, you can start counting and counting and counting every day for the rest of your life, for eternity. You will never get there, because guess what? There is no there to get to. There is no end. That's the idea of infinity. And if you can never get to the end because there is no end, then you cannot cross an infinity.
it's similar to our previous discussions on some remarks on the Malpass Carlo debates.
Yeah.
Okay.
That never happens. However far into the future you go, you've still got infinitely many numbers still to count. So no, this isn't a task that ever terminates, but we didn't claim that it did. The claim was only that you can count infinitely many numbers in an infinite amount of time.
Okay, so sometimes the problem is supposed to be that we can't transition from the finite to the infinite. After all, if we've got something finite and we add a finite amount to it, then the result's going to be finite. So no matter how many times we do that, we're never going to break out from the finite to the infinite. The problem is not so much that that's false, and it seems to me that that's true. It's just that the hypothesis of the past having no beginning is such that it's always been infinite. There's never been any point in the past where there'd only ever been finitely many. So there's no need for a transition.
So you never get to the end of this process. You never get to the last biggest counting number. This is a sequence. The sequence of counting numbers is a sequence without an end. But that's perfectly acceptable. That makes perfectly good sense. The fact that you can't get to the end is indicative of the fact that there is no end.
Suppose we agree the infinite is impossible. What does that mean
I don't
for the
really
infinite future?
understand what point they're trying to make. Well, then what's his point then? What is his point? It's perfectly acceptable. Yeah, we agree that it's perfectly acceptable. We agree that it's totally acceptable. And if it were true that you had an infinity of events, you will never get to the end, and that's the point. So that supports the Kalam. It doesn't support their argument, whatever that argument is. I have no idea what they're talking about there.
They are talking the same as we do.
Supporters of the Kalam are generally committed to this idea, not just because religious texts seem to promise it, but also because some allege that our lives have no meaning without it.
That on a naturalistic worldview, everything is ultimately destined to...
Okay, you know about
Look,
this.
You can stop it there. This is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so the host here made a big blunder, big mistake, because now she's moving the target somewhere else. Essentially, she is saying that the supporters of the Kalam support the Kalam, believe that the Kalam is sound because they have a commitment to religion. That is absolutely false, because number one, Craig, who is the biggest supporter of the Kalam, admits that has nothing to do with Christianity, with religion, and in fact, the Kalam does not even contain the word God in it.
Yeah.
Secondly, there are people like me. I'm not a theist. I don't have a religion. I don't go to church or mosque. I don't pray. And I believe that the Kalam is sound. I do believe in God, but not the theistic God.
Yeah.
So that is absolutely irrelevant. This point is irrelevant, just like the whole video. We will see.
We have a demonstration that even if it's not necessary to be a religious God to accept the Kalam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Destruction and the heat death of the universe.
Okay, it's just about the endless, infinite or endless future. The topic
Yeah,
whether
and by the way, I wanted to say it's also incorrect because and a little unfair, I have to say, because now the video is taking this discussion right here out of context, because this is a discussion that Craig had with Shelley Kagan on the objectivity of morality.
morality.
So what Craig is saying in this video, he's saying to him that if on naturalism, the idea that there's only the physical world, in the physical world, you cannot find moral value. That's a fact. There's no moral value in the physical world. So you need something that transcends the physical world if you want to talk about objective morality. You can talk about subjective morality all you want all day, but that's all it is. It's subjective. It's subjective based on a culture or a person's morality. That's what he's saying in this video. Nothing to do with the Kalam.
Kalam. Okay. Maybe. Okay. Space-time singularity and
Are not incompatible with each other.
The infinite future is not the only infinity supporters of the Kalam tend to embrace. They've also claimed that the Big Bang singularity proves a beginning of time.
Arrives at a state of infinite density at some point in the finite past. This state represents a singularity at which space-time curvature, along with temperature, pressure, and density, becomes infinite. It therefore constitutes an edge or boundary to space-time itself.
The argument by Lane Craig that the fact that there's that the infinite past is impossible, and therefore that conception of the universe is untenable, is incompatible with their claim that there is a singular point at which the universe originates, because the properties of that singularity are entirely infinite.
Precisely what
okay.
That's just playing with words.
Yes,
That the singularity, the property of the singularity is that it's an infinity. What does that even mean? If by singularity, what is meant is a mathematical point that began expanding, right?
Yep.
In all directions. That's the idea of the Big Bang. And there's no idea as far as the Big Bang. The singularity does not have the property of infinity. The singularity is a singularity. Now, if you want to say that the singularity is a temporal event that has an infinite number of events, then you're begging the question. And that is not demonstrated by contemporary science. And so I wanted to say the mistake that people make when they talk about the scientific evidence is that, yes, maybe Craig should not go around talking about the Big Bang, and I don't think he's going around. I think this video is old.
Yep.
He was really marshaling the Big Bang maybe 15, 20 years ago. Now,
Yep.
even Craig, you can see that he has changed his mind. He doesn't just talk about the Big Bang theory plain and simple. But the point is that either you accept that the Big Bang is the beginning of space-time and reality, and as you probably know, most contemporary physicists deny that the Big Bang, that anyone should get from the Big Bang, that the Big Bang is the beginning of reality.
Yeah.
No serious physicist that I know says, no, the Big Bang tells you before the singularity, there was nothing. they all say, no, no, no. This is just the observable universe.
Universe.
We don't know. We don't know what comes before the singularity. Maybe there was and recently, what physicists are pushing is this idea that in order to understand that, we have to stop talking like 19th century, 20th century science, because now we are in the quantum era of physics. And so when you understand the origin of the universe, and you introduce the notion of the quantum world and quantum field theory, then it's a different story, because in field theory, anything can happen. You can have this, you can have that. But the point is, you cannot have, even in quantum field theory, you cannot have a truly an actual infinity of events. And if you say, well, time doesn't really work the way that it works in the boundaries, within the boundaries of the universe, this universe, there's a quantum era, and in a quantum era, it's static, it is changeless, it is
Timeless.
whatever it is, right? They hide behind the word quantum, but you cannot have a quantum era of any kind that just sits there doing nothing, all right, eternally doing nothing, and then 14 billion years ago, for some magic, this quantum section of reality springs into pops into a singularity that creates the universe. That is science fiction. That is not science. So the point is, the bottom line is that that contemporary physicists abuse science and abuse the word quantum. If there's no explanation, you know that atheists always say it's the God of the gaps.
Yeah.
That is the quantum of the gaps. Because if there's no explanation, the atheist pulls that card out of his pocket. It's quantum. It's quantum. But how can you explain, for example, the fine tuning of the universe? It's quantum. Now they open the pocket and say it's quantum. Yeah. It's quantum. And they think that just by saying quantum,
they
smooth everything out, they explain everything.
Yeah. There is a survey by Phil Halper and Niash Afrozi. On that, they show that 68% of physicists do not believe that Big Bang indicate absolute beginning. Maybe 20% of scientists or physicists believe on it, that Big Bang can be indicated as a absolute beginning, where the space-time, matter, everything came from. So yeah, there are some controversies on what actually Big Bang means.
We know that, and I'm fine with that. I'm the first one to say I accept that the Big Bang might not be the actual beginning of the universe.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. But I don't accept that because there's a quantum era prior to that, that quantum era can be literally an infinity.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are so many problems with that.
Even in a quantum era, it doesn't address our metaphysical questions, that how can an infinite be possible in reality. And on behalf of the whether Craig admitted singularity right now, this video is from 2022, I guess, and in 2012 there's a paper named on the non-singular beginning of the universe by Craig and Sinclair, where they respond to Brian Pitts, and they said that It is not the issue that a beginning must be entailed a beginning point. So
Yeah.
there can be something a non-singular beginning. So yeah, this video didn't admit that Craig just changes his mind many
Yeah.
times. Okay, so it was about space-time singularity, then Carlo Rovelli. Okay, all of these things are same and
involves infinities. A further problem for the Kalam argument is that it assumes an eternal universe would have had to traverse infinite time in order to get to a unique now. But in relativity, there is no such notion. Time is relative. In order to tackle this, Craig appeals to what is known as the Neo-Lorentzian interpretation of relativity, which does restore a unique sense of now.
Discovery with Copernicus is that the Earth is not the center of the universe. Well, but you can always rethink the Earth as you can imagine that you can add a center. Nobody prevents you from doing that. You just complicate life for yourself. And it's the same for special relativity. You can add a preferred reference frame. It's not visible, it's not detectable, but you think it's there. That's the Lorentzian, the Neo-Lorentzian interpretation of special relativity. What do we gain? The only thing we gain is that we can do the new physics with old mindset. But I think we should adapt our intuition to the new physics, not adapt new physics to our intuition. Right? When we discover that Earth is round, that's up, that's down, but different sigma is somewhere around. Well, you can think, yeah, but in reality, there's a true up and a true down. You can, but what do you gain? I mean, you have to adapt your intuition about up down to the discovery, not the other way around. Physicists are not particularly keen about Neo-Lorentzian interpretation of special relativity. Having said that when you go to general relativity, have a Neo-Lorentzian interpretation is much harder, because in special relativity, you just pick a frame and in general relativity, there is no global frame. I think everything in physics, modern physics is telling us there is no preferred frame, there is no preferred time slice, there's no preferred time.
Craig has suggested there is a universal clock that gives us a unique now. That is cosmological time, the time since the Big Bang.
Cosmic time is the same for every hypothetical observer in the universe, regardless of his state of motion. In other words, cosmic time is a kind of reinstatement of Newton's absolute time.
Well, cosmological time is a fake. Why? Because matter, gravity slows time. So inside the galaxy, clocks go slower than outside. Point is, there are many different clocks in the universe, which they don't agree with one another, and there are many times in the universe which don't agree with one another. The idea of the cosmological time is just one arbitrary definition of an average, but I can give a different definition of an average.
Okay, what's your take on
I don't
this?
see how this is an objection. I struggle to see how this is an objection. First of all, even if it's this has nothing to do with the new Lorentzian interpretation. This has nothing to do with the Newtonian interpretation of objective time. Whether time, there's a time that we experience, okay? Yeah. And Einstein has taught us that we human beings experience time differently. There's evidence. This has been proved in science. Shoot a clock into space, right? And it's going to slow down, right? Go faster, and you experience things differently. That's totally fine. That's the time that we experience. But now to say that because time is relative, which means that we experience time differently depending on how fast we go, depending on gravity, etc. Does that mean that time? I mean, tell me, is the host, is the presenter here suggesting that time doesn't exist at all?
Yeah.
Well, if time doesn't exist at all, if time is not dynamic, then it seems to me that what they are implying is some sort of B theory of time, right? B theory of time where everything is frozen, nothing changes,
equally real.
Yeah, it's hard to. I mean, the B theory of time has many problems. So, I mean,
yeah, it has problem, and still, if for the sake of the argument or the discussion, we maintain that okay, B theory is true, or it is something real, it has some real features, still there is change. Change is undeniable.
There is change, there is causation. So
Yeah.
they don't, even the B theorists, well, at least some of them, and the block theorists agree that there is cause and effect in the block. But if you agree that there's cause and effect, then you agree that we don't experience time, but there is a succession, an order of events, and one thing causes another. And so I just, again, this is so irrelevant.
Yeah, on Carlos remarks, Carlo think that time is an illusion, and if you know the Matthias Slavov, on a philosopher or physicist, maybe Italian, so he reviewed the books of Carlo, and he objected that Carlo, it's seemingly that Carlo basically speaking about the Aristotelian sense of time, and he
Right.
accept this, but still he say that time is an illusion. Um, as we, the proponent of Kalam, agree on that time is relational. It is a measure of the change, and Carlo also accept that, but it is an illusion for him. But in his book, he doesn't demonstrate anything on behalf of this, on behalf of his belief that time is an illusion.
Yeah, but even if you say that time is an illusion, then cause and effect is an illusion, and then the Big Bang and the formation of galaxies and all that, all the evolution of Homo sapiens and all those events, they're not connected to one another. This is the absurdity of that view, because you
Yeah,
see the what we have said, what we said earlier when we started this video, is not even connected with what we're
right
saying
now.
now.
Yeah,
In fact, I'm not even the same person, because if time is unreal, there is an infinity chunks, sections of reality where I exist and you exist in these different modes, but no one is connected to the other. So if you start singing a song right now, at the end of the song, that's a different person. It's a different event. It's not connected. Now, if you say to me, "No, you're wrong. You're misinterpreting this idea." Well, then what is the correct interpretation? If the correct interpretation that time is an illusion, but one thing causes another, is that the correct interpretation? Well, then if one thing causes another, you've got the same problem. Whether time is an illusion or time is real, objectively, you have to
yeah,
explain how one thing causes another, and you cannot just help yourself of saying that just because time is an illusion, things just pop into existence uncaused. Even in the block, it's not the case that things pop into existence uncaused, right?
yeah. Yep.
So the event, you have to explain the same thing, unless you say, and you're begging the question, unless you say, no, the universe is eternal. There's no time, it's frozen. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, we have no proof, but still, it is eternal.
That's just an assertion, and that's where we're here discussing.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Then it.
Roger Penrose and Stephen Hawking.
The real lesson of the singularity theorems is therefore that we need to combine the general theory of relativity with quantum theory in order to understand the origin of the universe.
It is certainly a view quite commonly expressed now that we shouldn't simply give up that the Big Bang is a singularity, that we need a theory which describes that. Most people would say it's a form of quantum gravity. I have a view which is different from that, but nevertheless, I have in common with that we need a new theory.
I don't think anybody believes the universe started off with the singularity.
Yeah, same things. We admitted that, yeah, it may be true.
I am perfectly willing to agree 100% with them. There's no reason to believe that the universe began with a singularity.
Yeah,
That's fine,
there.
and that does not affect the Kalam, because
Yeah,
the Kalam doesn't say everything that begins to exist exists with a singularity. The
singularity.
Kalam
Yeah,
says
it's
whatever begins to exist requires some kind of thing or object or agent that brings that thing into existence.
existence. Yeah. Okay. They are discussing on several models, string loops, and the big bounds. We know
Sure.
about that. Okay. Uh, let's go to the BGV. Okay.
When you arrive at the very small scale. With the physics community abandoning its belief in the applicability of the Penrose-Hawking theorem, Kalam advocates switched to a newer theorem known as the Bordick-Guth and Vilenkin theorem, or BGV. This theorem was developed because the period of rapid expansion, known as inflation, that's believed to have taken place in the early universe, violates one of the assumptions of the Penrose-Hawking theorem, that gravity is always attractive. Inflation is also thought to be eternal into the future, creating an infinite multiverse.
In 2003, Arvin Bohr, Alan Guth, and Alexander Vilenkin were able to prove that any universe, which is on average in a state of cosmic expansion throughout its history, cannot be infinite in the past, but must have a past space-time boundary. What makes their proof so powerful is that it holds regardless of the physical description of the very early universe. So in fact, the Borg-Guth-Vilenkin theorem does imply an absolute beginning of the universe.
I was working with Arvin Borda and Alex Vilenkin to understand what we can learn about how inflation might have started and how far back it could have gone. And in particular, once we realized that inflation could be eternal into the future, it seemed like a very natural question to ask. Could inflation have also been eternal into the past? And what we found was that inflation could not be eternal into the past. What we basically managed to achieve was proving a theorem which says that any expanding region of space-time that has a minimum expansion rate can only go back so far and not infinitely far. So that means that inflation must have had a beginning. It doesn't really say that the universe must have had a beginning, but it says that the universe could not have been expanding forever up until the present time.
So we interviewed Ashtekar, and in their model they have a bouncing universe, and they said, well, that means the universe could be eternal in the past, and that theorem doesn't prevent that. Is that right?
Yeah, that is right.
The theorem proves that inflation must have a beginning, right? The universe as a whole, the theorem doesn't say that. It says that the expansion of the universe must have a beginning, right? So, but
yes, that's true. That's true. So, but still, I want to defend Craig because I don't think that Craig misunderstood
the BGB.
The BGB. Yes, they're correct. That's what it says. It doesn't say the universe must have a beginning. Okay, so to be precise, as Alexander Vilenkin is explaining, it only means that inflation meaning the universe we observe that is expanding, and Vilenkin and Guth and Bohr in their theorem, they were able to demonstrate that this expanding, the inflation, cannot be eternal.
Yeah.
If a universe is expanding, that expansion is not eternal. It's got a beginning. But then what does that mean to say that, but maybe the universe is eternal?
Yeah, there is a point. I emailed to Dr. Aaron Wall. You may know him. So Aaron from Cambridge University. So he responded to me. He sent me an email, and on this topic, he mentioned that if we are talking about the inflation, as inflation it has some exponential growth on future, and this growth basically remove all the evidence that if there are some stuff on pre-inflationary scenario, or if there are something that physically may be eternal or something in pre-inflation scenario, and we cannot scientifically detect this phase. And if you ask for some scientific consideration, then on behalf of science, it is totally impossible to detect whether there are any pre-inflationary scenario or not. So as Vilenkin or Good actually discussing on this topic, as they are asserting that BGV basically argue for the beginning of the inflation, then there is no concrete reason then how you could separate the universe and inflation.
Yeah. Yes,
Of
exactly. That is my first response. I would say that there is a distinction without a difference.
Yeah.
Because essentially what I'm saying is, if you're telling me that that inflation cannot be past eternal, that is tantamount to saying that the universe cannot be past eternal. Now, when Alexander Vilenkin here in this clip is saying, but that doesn't mean that the universe itself could not be eternal, because it could. I think that this is where the intelligent, brilliant scientist stops thinking, and he makes speculations, metaphysical speculations, philosophical speculations.
Yeah.
What Alexander Vilenkin just you heard out of his mouth saying was a metaphysical speculation, not a scientific one.
Yeah.
The scientific one is inflation cannot be past eternal. But when he says, but the universe itself could be eternal, that is metaphysics, ladies and gentlemen. It's no longer physics, it's no longer science, because now you have to ask Alexander, okay, suppose that is the case. Inflation, which is what we're talking about when we're talking about the universe that is expanding, cannot be past eternal. Inflation has a beginning. What does that mean to say that there might be an underlying universe, right? That is eternal. What does that mean? Eternal in what sense? Well, the only thing that I can think of philosophically might be something like this: that there might be an underlying structure such that structure that we call the cosmos, the universe, the whatever you want to call it, right, is eternal. It's static.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything. But the question is, it doesn't seem possible. Is it possible, the question is, that this universe is literally eternal in a temporal sense? Now, most physicists would reply, no, because there is no time. But then you have to explain to me, it's a huge problem which is discussed in scientific literature, right? The huge problem is, how do you explain a universe that doesn't do anything? It might be a quantum universe. It would be call it whatever you want. But this is static, changeless, timeless. But then from that, you get the Big Bang, and you get the introduction of inflation and space and time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what I would say, that is a miracle, which leads to the conclusion that God exists.
There is a God. Okay. When any scientist basically talking about the past eternity of the universe, they are not actually asserting like ours. I mean, as I mentioned, Aaron Wall, and I just contacted with some others physicists. They basically say that what actually we are taking on the Kalam, scientists do not talk like that or argue like that, because if I say that an actual infinity is impossible in a metaphysical sense, scientists do not working on that. They just make a diagram that have the minus infinity to the plus infinity, and they try to construct a model, and that's it. Scientist has nothing to do with our metaphysical problem, because they do not argue like from the side of Kalam or the against Kalam. They
Sure.
are constructing their specific models. And of course, if my worldview is like in my ontology, there is some serious problem with infinity, and if on my view it is sound, then of course any cosmological models entail some eternal past must be rejected from the ground. So that's the whole point of Aaron Wall and my discussion. So and from an interesting fact is that from the scientific perspective, if you know, he is a Thomist, but from scientific consideration, he told me that he can bet that the universe must be finite, not infinite at all. And he has some conference on the philosophy of physics in recent time. He sent me the file. We will discuss on this about later, or on after this discussion or any other discussion. Okay, so as I know you have some sort of time. Okay.
Well, I got another
We
10,
will
15 minutes.
yeah, 10. Okay, we will complete the half of this. Here they also discuss about the premise one, so we will respond this in another live. Okay.
I have time for maybe the last point if you want to.
Okay. Yeah, we just try to respond the other thing. Wall theorem. Okay, let's go for Wall. It is one of my other favorite.
Singularity, we end up with a bounce.
The BGV theorem relies on principles of relativity. For example, signals cannot travel faster than light. But this is problematic for Craig's Lorentzian relativity, which allows for faster than light travel. And with the authors of the BGV explicitly stating it does not prove the universe had a beginning, the Kalam advocates have begun using yet another theorem developed by Aaron Wall.
Wall is assuming that some version of second law of thermodynamics is really fundamental and should be a fundamental ingredient in the series, which determines whether there will be singularity or not. And I agree with that. I think that it really is something that would emerge in approximate sense in a semi-classical regime.
Generalized second law that was proven by Aaron Wall for a quantum singularity, it assumes an infinite space. And if you don't allow for infinities in your theory, then you cannot take that theorem seriously either.
Craig also quotes a paper by Anthony Aguirre and John Cahias that he claims closes the door to a past eternal quantum gravity era. But in most models, the quantum gravity era is brief anyway. And the paper only referred to a particular model known as the emergent universe.
But there are other possibilities too, as to how the universe could be in accord with the Bordet-Guth-Vilenkin theorem, but could, I think, really be past eternal. If you define a past eternal model, you can. It self-consistently works, but you do have an edge to it. If you can ask what's beyond that edge, and it's another copy of the same universe. So I think.
Okay, here, if I try to summarize the topic here, they are discussing about the Aaron Wall's theorem, which says that generalized maybe generalized generalized second law implies a quantum singularity theorem. That means if our very quantum region maintain the second law of thermodynamics, then it must imply that in a quantum era or in a quantum region, it must have a singularity. So against Wall theorems, they are trying to Avayasthakar, one of the physicists from okay, I just forgot the institution name. So they are claiming that maybe the second law of thermodynamics can be emergent property, an emergent property, not any kind of fundamental property of the universe or our quantum era or quantum region, which they are trying to postulate on behalf of eternal universe. So As I know, the in several papers, some physicists argue that the thermodynamical our second law of thermodynamics may be an emergent property from some statistical events, and it has some for and against argument or for and against research and so many things. But as Wall defend his theorem, uh, from this side there are no proper objection, just as they try to say, without of course any evidence. There is no evidence that our second law of thermodynamics is actually an emergent property, or it may be an emergent property from the quantum era. And specifically, all the time they are talking about the quantum era or quantum region. They are asserting that you previously said that a quantum era which is timeless, spaceless, or kind of changeless state from where the initial changes came from. So it seems that they're asserting the same things. We are we just complete our previous responses. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your remarks
Yeah,
on
and
this?
once again, I want to repeat what I've said a moment ago.
Yeah.
These scientists very often abuse science. They really show what the true meaning of scientism. If they do science correctly, the only thing that I can say to you is we have no idea. Right? The only thing that we know with certainty, certainty, not 100% certainty, is that inflation cannot possibly stretch to infinity. Inflation has a beginning. What does that mean for the existence of the universe? We don't know. But to say, even to write or to divulge such an information, to say, but it's possible that the universe is eternal, that is an abuse of science. They don't know what they're saying. They're now making pseudo-philosophical assertions. They're no longer making scientific assertions. They're only saying maybe there's something at bottom that is eternal, and that thing causes the universe to exist, which is the very thing that the Kalam proponents are arguing for. Only with the Kalam proponents make sense because they insist that an impersonal cause for the universe could not produce the universe temporally a finite time ago, right? So that is the explanation. That is a better explanation, rather than because to believe, in my view, to believe that there could be a static quantum era, and that quantum era somehow changes all of a sudden. Well, how can it change? You need a clock, you need time, you need something that acts upon it. You need an explanation as to why something that is static and eternal all of a sudden produces something new. You cannot do that simply by saying it just does, and then expect people to believe that that is not a miracle, because that sounds exactly like a miracle. On the other hand, the proponent of the Kalam says, no, there must be a mind that is capable of doing that. Only a mind is capable of doing that. A mind can exist without time, without space, without change, and then freely decide to instantiate a change. You say, but what causes that mind to do it? Nothing causes that mind to do it, because that's the point of having free will.
Yes.
Right?
Well,
Yeah.
in
Okay.
this
I
video.
have 5 minutes. I have to
Okay.
run now.
Okay.
I have
Okay.
to go. We can do part 2 of this if you want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Of course. Of course.
Just let me know.
We remaining the half of this video. We will complete this in our another streaming. Okay. Maybe our brother have a question to you just for 2 minutes. Okay. শান্ত ভাই আপনি কি শুনতে পাচ্ছেন?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ শুনতে পাচ্ছি ভাই, আমাকে শোনা যাচ্ছে?
হ্যাঁ প্রশ্নটা করে ফেলেন।
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Carlo Alvaro, for joining with us. I have a question. Some Bengali atheists claim that the first premise of the Kalam cosmological argument, which states that whatever begins to exist has a cause. So they claim it is not true because they argue that we justify this premise, Kalam cosmological first premise, we justify only by our observing reality around us. So there are maybe many things about which we cannot observe, which we cannot, which we have no knowledge. So it could be possible that some case things can came into existence without any cause. So they also claim that in the quantum field, many things came into existence without any cause. So therefore, they are arguing the first premise is not true. So what could be the response to the atheist claim?
Well, if they say that the quantum field, from the quantum field, listen to the words, that a subatomic particle, let's say, comes into existence from a subatomic field. Well, listen to the words. That doesn't mean that the subatomic particle begins to exist out of nothing. If there is a quantum field, then the particle
Still we have something.
Comes from something. It doesn't come from nothing. Okay. Now the other part of the question was that what was the other part of the question?
Okay, we just observe the things in the universe. So it could be possible that.
Yes. So now when people say to you, how do you know? Maybe in some remote part of the universe, as we speak right now, there are particles or objects just coming into existence out of nothing at all. Now, two responses. The first one is the previous one. It's not that they come out of nothing. Okay. So there can only be an epistemological statement, namely, we don't know, but maybe there are causes, fundamental causes we don't know. And you cannot assert that that's evidence for the beginning, uncaused beginning. Furthermore, you cannot assert that is a piece of evidence at all, because it's not a piece of evidence. That's not even an argument. To say maybe in some part of the universe that's happening, well, show me where it's happening, and then we have a discussion. But you cannot use that as an argument, because that doesn't prove anything. It's just speculation. It's just saying, for all we know, I have $1 million in my pocket, for all we know. Well, show it to me. Right? So that's not even
their
an
argument is it is logically possible to something came into existence from absolute nothing. Their claim, not my claim. So if it is logically possible, then why we need to justify the claim? It's their claim.
Well, you have to justify the claim because There is no reason to believe that things come into existence out of nothing. I mean, that would be a violation of a principle that we have better reason to believe in the principle that out of
Yes.
nothing comes, right? Than to believe that for what reason that it might be possible that in a universe, in some part of the universe, things pop into existence uncaused. I don't think that is plausible. And if you think that it is plausible, you have to present an argument and give me some indication that might be plausible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I want to add some point. I think that atheist people, they cannot differentiate scientific nothing and philosophical nothing. So when science say nothing, it means something exists, or that means energy, quantum field. But in philosophy, when we say nothing, it's absolutely nothing. There is no matter, no energy, no time, no space. So absolutely nothing, totally nothing. And I think atheist people cannot differentiate two things. And we know a philosopher, I don't remember his name. He says 9 level of nothingness. So
okay, Sabina Hussain Fielder, I guess.
Oh yeah, yes. So the 9 level means absolutely nothing. There is no time, no energy, no space, no matter. So when we say nothing, this means 9 level of nothing.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I think you're running out of time. As you have the okay, we will talk to you. With you later.
Yeah, let's do part 2.
And we'll okay. Oh,
Thank
thanks
you
for
very much.
coming. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye now. Okay.
Okay, I gotta run. We can talk later.
Okay. Thanks for coming again. Okay. We have to end our live right now. Okay. And well, লাইভটা শেষ হচ্ছে না। ওকে, আমরা তাহলে শেষ করে দিই। আমাদের আর কি করব?
আচ্ছা,
বোরিং।
আমি আপনি যে ওনাকে নিয়ে আসবেন আমি তো জানতামই না। তো আমি কমেন্ট বক্সে দেখতেছিলাম একজন বলতেছে যে
উনি
আমরা
দিছে
খ্রিস্টানদেরকে নিয়ে আসছি নাকি। ভাই উনি তো খ্রিস্টান না, উনি একজন দেইস্ট। হ্যাঁ, উনি গডে বিলিভ করে। এবং এটা দেখেন, এটা কিন্তু একটা ভালো একটা পয়েন্ট যে দেখেন কালাম কসমোলজিক্যাল আর্গুমেন্ট এতটা সাউন্ড যে যেটা শুধু মুসলিমরা ইউজ করতেছে না, এটা ডেইস্ট ইউজ করতেছে, খ্রিস্টান ইউজ করতেছে। এন্ড একজন ডেইস্ট যে পারসন, যে কোনো রিলিজিয়াস মানে না, তারা তো বলে, মানে নাস্তিকরা তো বলে যে আমরা নাকি ধর্ম বাঁচানোর জন্য এই ধরনের যে উল্টাপাল্টা কথা বলি। তো এখন এই যে কার্লো সম্ভবত নাম, উনি কি বাঁচানোর জন্য এই আপনার যে কালামকে সাউন্ড বলতেছে, তাই না? তো এটা ভালো হয়েছে যে আমরা তো চাইলে মোহাম্মদ হিজাবকে আনতে পারতাম, আমরা চাইলে সবুর আহমদকে আনতে পারতাম, আমরা চাইলে আমাদের যে মুসলিম যে যত আরো যে ফিলোসফার আছে যারা এই বিষয়গুলো নিয়ে কথা বলে, মোহাম্মদ হিজাব, তারপর হচ্ছে যে আরে এই ব্রিটেনের যেই আমি নামটা ভুলে গেলাম, হামজা জর্জিসকে আনতে পারতাম, তাই না? আমরা চাইলে। কিন্তু তাদেরকে যখন আমরা আনতাম তখন এই নাস্তিকরা কি বলতো জানেন? নাস্তিকরা বলতো আরে এরা তো মুসলিম, এরা তো তোমাদের পক্ষে কথা বলবে, গোজামিল দিচ্ছে, তেনাবাজি করছে, কিছু শুনতো না। তো এই কারণে দেখেন আজকে আমরা কিন্তু ডেইস্টকে নিয়ে আসছি, যে কোনো ধর্ম বিশ্বাস করে না, যে নিজে বলছে যে সে কোনো চার্চে যায় না, উপাসনা করে না, কিন্তু সে বিলিভ করে গড আছে, এন্ড সে কালাম আর্গুমেন্টকে সাউন্ড মনে করে, এটা সে নিজে স্বীকার করতে দিয়েছে। সুতরাং এটা এই নাস্তিকদের যদি আপনাদের যদি ব্রেইন থাকে, একটু নিজেরা চিন্তা করে দেখে নেবেন। হ্যাঁ, সো ঠিক আছে আদিক ভাই, তাহলে দীপ্ত ভাই আসলে মনে হয় কিছু বলতে দেখেন।
হ্যাঁ, দিতে হয়, বলেন। আপনি তো আসলেন, গেলেন, উঠলেন, দৌড়াইলেন।
না, আমি ভাবতেছিলাম যে আলোচনা ভালো হইতেছে, তো আমি আর বাগড়া না দিই, ঠিক আছে? তো মানে দুইজন কথা বললে এর মধ্যে আরেকজন বললে ওইটা একটু মানে অন্যরকম দেখা যায়। যাক, তুমি হচ্ছে এই লাইভ ক্যান্সেল করে দিয়ে আরেকটা উন্মুক্ত যেটা ওটা খোলা। আমি আজকে ফ্রি আছি, তো ভাবতেছি যে লাইভ করব।
ওকে ওকে, উনি হয়তো উনি আচ্ছা, আর একটু ওনাকে রেসপন্স করে নি।
আজকে যে ভিডিওটা দেখলাম এটা হচ্ছে ফাউল ভিডিও আর ছিল না। বেসিক্যালি ওই ফিল হালফারের যে ভিডিওটা, মানে এখানে কি করতেছে ওই জানে।
না কিছু
ইউনিভার্সের
মানে বিষয়টা হচ্ছে তারা আমি যেটা দেখলাম আর কি, টু বি অনেস্টলি স্পিকিং। আচ্ছা কালকেও তাহলে দিতে হয়, কালকে ফ্রি আছেন?
হ্যাঁ কালকে ইনশাল্লাহ ফ্রি আছি।
ওকে, তো ওনাকে বলে দিই, উনি বলতেছে কালকে ফ্রি আছে। ওকে
ঠিক আছে।
ওকে ঠিক আছে, তাহলে কাল হচ্ছে সেম টাইমে শুরু করবো না, 8টা 9টা।
সব সময় যখন আর কি ইনফিনিটি নিয়ে কথাটা আসে, তো সবসময় ওরা আর কি ট্রাই করে যে আরে ম্যাথমেটিক্যাল একটা উদাহরণ দিব, যে ধরেন আপনি একটা জিনিস ইনফাইনাইটলি ডিভাইড করতে পারেন
গেস
বা
গেস
হ্যাঁ
গেস হোয়াট, জিনিসটা হচ্ছে যে তারা কিছু ম্যাথমেটিশিয়ানকে নিয়ে আসছে, গুড,
হ্যাঁ
এন্ড
তো
কিছু ফিজিস্টকে নিয়ে আসছে, এন্ড দ্যাটস ওয়াই এটা ট্রু। মানে কি এটা?
একটা মজার বিষয় বলি। আমি দেখলাম কালকে রায়হান ভাই আমার দেখাচ্ছিল কলের মধ্যে, এই যে বাঙ্গু যে অ্যাথিস্ট গুলা আছে, এই যে আপনার হচ্ছে যে
আমার ডিবেটের রেসপন্সও করছে দেখছি।
হ্যাঁ মামলুক দাসী যেটা আছে, তো সে বলতেছে আচ্ছা ধরে নেন, আমরা ধরে নিলাম যে হোয়াট এভার বিগিংস টু এক্সিস্ট হ্যাজ এ কজ। এটা আমরা কেমনে বুঝলাম? যে আমরা আমাদের চারপাশে যা কিছু দেখি সবকিছুর পিছনে একটা কারণ আছে, সুতরাং সব মানে মহাবিশ্বের পেছনে কারণ আছে। আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে, আমরা তর্কের খাতিরে এটা ধরে নিলাম, তো আমরা দেখি সবকিছুর পিছনে একটা ন্যাচারাল কজ আছে। তো তাইলে তো আছে যে মহাবিশ্বের পেছনে তাহলে ন্যাচারাল কজই তো থাকবে। মানে এদের ব্রেইন কোন জায়গায় চিন্তা করে দেখেন যে নেচার যখন এক্সিস্টই করতো না, তখনও নাকি নেচারের জন্য ন্যাচারাল কজ ছিল। বুঝতে পারছেন? কি একটা অবস্থা ভাই, চিন্তা করে দেখেন। মানে এটা শিখাচ্ছে, একদম কষ্ট করছে। এটা হচ্ছে যে মামলুক দাসী ফারাজ যা বলতেছিল, এবং একই সাথে হচ্ছে যে
এখন
মানে বলতেছি কি যে আচ্ছা শেষ
করে
করে
শুনছি চান্দু ভাই, এটা আমি বাইরে থেকে শুনছি।
দীপ্ত ভাই
আচ্ছা আসিফ, তুমি এই লাইভ শেষ করো, তুমি আরেকটা লাইভ খুলো, আমরা
আমি বলতেছি এটা আপনি এন্ড করে দেন।
ওকে ঠিক আছে তাহলে দর্শকেরা আছেন, ধন্যবাদ সবাইকে। আমরা নতুন লাইভে আসতেছি আমাদের ওপেন ডিসকাশনে। ওকে, থ্যাঙ্কস টু অল।